Good evening and a happy 244th Independence Day to all our viewers. Today is Monday, July 6, 2020. I am Sargis Sangari, the Republican nominee for Congressional District 9 for Congress, and this is the fifth episode of New Paradigms. Joining me today is Valerie Ramirez Mukherjee, who is a Slovenian Mexican American, a first-time candidate and the Republican nominee for Congress in the 10th district for Illinois. Val's 10th and my 9th congressional district border each other and share some of the same townships which overlap the districts. Val is a first-generation college student and Ivy League educated professional where she self-funded herself through scholarships and hard work at the University of California, Berkeley. She also earned a Master's of Public Administration, MPA, from Columbia University and a Master's of Business Association, MBA, from Wharton. A self-made businesswoman, Val worked at leading Wall Street and Silicon Valley firms, including Goldman Sachs, UBS, IBM, Bloomberg, and several Bay Area startups. Val left the corporate world at the young age of 39 to start her family's investment office and educational philanthropy. Val is running on a platform of jobs, education, taxes, and safety, which refers to as JETS, to help revitalize the district. Val describes herself as a socially moderate and fiscally responsible candidate who wants to bring performance basis back to politics. And if elected, Val will be the first woman to represent the district and the first Hispanic American woman to represent Illinois in Congress. Val lives in Northbrook, Illinois, with her husband of 16 years, who is an immigrant from India, with their two children who are attending middle school. And she is also, more importantly, the primary caregiver for her 75-year-old mother. Val, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to New Paradigms and happy Independence Day.
Same to you, Sargis. Thank you. I'm excited to join you.
Well, I wanted to give an opportunity, if possible, tell us a bit about your district. Tell us how it lays out along with the ninth, and what are some of the demographics or important things that you want to talk about within your district?
And it's such a beautiful district, as I've said on, Fox and NBC. Is when I first visited here a couple years ago, and I've lived in some great places across this country, I fell in love. Like it's a funny story. When I visited, my husband was considering relocating here, and I took the kids, took a visit. We went home, and I said, "Honey, we're moving. We're coming here." So Congressional District 10 starts in Winnetka, goes along Lake Michigan up the water and inland from there. And it is a diverse district, which is approaching about 50% minority now. Very different than what it was pre-2010 in the last census draw. We'll see what it's going to be in the next census draw. But it is a beautiful district with 14 Fortune 500 companies, a diverse population, great trains, right? You have the same where you are in 9, great schools, great infrastructure, water, right? So it's just a beautiful place. And I want to make sure we bring a lot of attention to it, because the way I see Congressional District 10 is it's like kind of a corporation that, I've worked in. It's a turnaround opportunity. We have the assets. They're just being underutilized. And if we can bring more attention, get better representation, we can really turn this beautiful place around and prosper like some of the other places I've lived across this country.
No, we can. Look, it's a beautiful place to be. Same thing with the ninth, and most of one of these ties are, linked together. Actually, during the last census, they took, they gerrymandered the district and took a lot of areas from the ninth to give to the 10th and to be able to help the current incumbent there. But we're hoping to make a difference, to ethnical individuals from diverse communities coming together and trying to reclaim the Northwest side again for the Republican Party in this election.
Yeah, no, and it's a real opportunity, right? So it's nice being you and I both Like I looked at this district to say, really, there has never been a woman that's ever advanced past the primary in Congressional District 10. Never, for either party. Um, and you sit back and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then on top of that, a minority woman. And I look at this district, and this is where I say, I'm grateful for those that have served before me. This is a really hard job. You know that. Running for office is tough, right? People tell you you're doing a good job, but more people speak up and say, I hate you. I don't like your ideas. It is emotionally wearing, right? I say to people, this is way harder than what I ever experienced working in Wall Street or Silicon Valley Tech. So I'm grateful for those that serve. I'm grateful for those that run. But what I'm excited about and what I say is, how can we have new role models here in this area so others like you and I with our diverse backgrounds can say, hey, there's an opportunity that I can do something like that. There's someone that looks like me or has my background or has a story like mine. Hopefully that'll give more inspiration to those in the large, growing minority community to say, hey, maybe she'll understand or Sarkis will understand my background and my perspective. Well, I see the video
Well, no,
there.
it's true. Yeah. Go ahead, Val.
Sorry, I was just
It
seeing
is
the
true.
video, that fun video that my son, my 13-year-old at the time, he shot for me last year walking in a parade, and that was what is it called, B-roll? That's what NBC ended up using. So super proud that my little 13-year-old made that homemade video that was used for national TV.
Well, look, the family has to get involved. I mean, I know that you yourself were raised by a single mom who escaped violent domestic abuse when she was a toddler. And I know how difficult it was for her. But, a lot of people don't know the background of the candidates. They think that all the candidates running today come from money, and we don't. You grew up in a ethnically diverse working class yourself in a neighborhood where you guys have to live paycheck to paycheck. I, as an immigrant who came here, I know myself, I survived for 2 years on basically one Twinkie. Was
Wow.
my
Yeah.
lunch every time I went to school. And one day my mom had forgotten to pack me my Twinkie too. And I ended up, being harassed, and it was in a fight because at that time
Seriously?
I was an Assyrian Christian leaving Iran. I came here to the States, but because Iran and U.S. did not have a good relationship, I was constantly in fights because people always would pick fights with me, thinking
Yeah.
that I'm just, an Iranian who doesn't care about the country. So these are the things
Yeah.
we all go through. And I think that's important for people to know that your background is the same, that, we just don't come from money. We just want to run to help our communities.
And the big message there is how America doesn't judge you on that. That's what I try to say to people. Like, did I have a tough lifestyle, a tough childhood? Absolutely. My mom escaped, my father when I was just a baby. And it's hard for me to talk about because that evening, I truly feel like, fast forward to the age I am now, that it traumatized me, although I don't have a memory of it. But, he pulled a gun on her, held it to her temple. The next day, she decided to leave. And fast forward to where I am now, and I still feel like those experiences are hard. So no matter who we are in this world, in this country, we all have our traumas. But what do you do with it? How do you say, I'm going to overcome it? I'm not going to let that hinder me. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to share with people this story. Maybe that'll inspire others to say, okay, it was tough, but how do I, wipe myself off, get up, and keep charging forward? So in many ways, now I look back and I mentor a lot to first generation low income college students. I say that hardship we went through as kids will make us stronger today. And I truly believe has helped me beat others that had a starting line way ahead of mine because I went through that hardship when I was a young kid. So now I'm grateful for it. When I was young and was going through it and it was tough and my mom needed help and we had no one to call, we had no money, and we possibly were about to be homeless, we persevered. And now I look back, I go, no problem. There's a problem. There's a struggle. I will figure it out. I will outwork you, perform so that I make sure, keep charging forward. Instead of having pity, I'll feel bad for a day, but I'll get back up and keep working hard. And so that hardship, actually, I'm grateful for today.
No, it is. Look, it's very important. I think that kind of builds your character, I remember when we came to the country, I didn't even know what no or yes meant. I remember walking in the first time to my grammar school, and the teacher started talking to me, and all I was doing was bawling. because which is, for those who don't know, I was crying because I had no clue what the teacher was talking about. I literally didn't know what the definition of a no or a yes was. I didn't speak any
Wow, I
English,
know, right?
and
Yeah.
when in a short period of time, I remember my proudest moment was that I scored a higher score on the Constitution test in my grammar school, and
Wow.
at that time you have to
Yeah.
write everything out. And went to high school, played football there, was a Letterman
Okay.
winner in my high school, and then got a 2-year scholarship from ROTC and joined the military. 20 years in, 6 years of continuous combat ops, and this country gave me an opportunity to literally take some of the best it has and said,
Mm-hmm.
"Here's our sons and daughters. They are in your care. Take them to combat, to war, and bring them back alive." And
Yeah.
I've had an opportunity as a team leader with the U.S. Special Operation Forces to take those young men and women and my friends right now and bring them back. And now we're just trying to transition again that learned lessons and service to our nation, because we love this country so much, on the 244th birthday to represent it in Congress. And I think that
Yeah.
you will do a wonderful job as a representative, especially with your diverse background. I do want to talk a little bit about your husband. I do know that he's
Sure.
an Indian immigrant. Tell us a bit about the community, the Indian community in your district, and how are they receiving you right now?
So that's one thing. It's what's been amazing being married to an immigrant. We talked about the struggles that I experienced as a kid, but when I learned from my husband and when I visit, his family in India, I'm often reminded like I had it really, really well compared to what his family went through. His dad was forced out of his country, was a refugee. He ended up putting himself through college by living on the balcony of a multi-story, apartment building, offering tutoring in exchange for housing on the balcony in India, in monsoons, in heat. And he persevered, right? And ended up putting himself through medical school, became a general in the Indian military, right? So this is what I love about being married, to someone from a different place. Like my husband and I, I say, on paper, you would have never put the two of us together. We are different racially, right? I'm Hispanic American. He's Asian. He's Indian. We come from a different class. I was raised, working class. He was raised. His family's educated. Mom was a PhD. Dad was a doctor. We have different religions. I'm Catholic. He's Hindu, right? And then when we think about ourselves as an American, I'm a fourth generation American. He is a first generation. He's an immigrant, right? And so what I love being, married to someone where we have such different backgrounds and experiences, how do we learn from one another? How does he teach me? How do I teach him? And it's fantastic. I love it. But raising children who are now triracial, okay, think about that, triracial,
Yeah.
where we have to talk about, they're like, what am I, Mommy? I'm like, you're you. You're American. You're just a beautiful person, and be who you want to be. Don't try to choose friends because they match the color of your skin or because they match your name. Don't choose a person because they are nice to you, because they make you feel happy. And then we have to have these conversations around religion. Well, am I going to raise them, Hindu? Or are we going to raise them, Catholic? What do we do? Right? My husband doesn't eat beef. I was raised with beef in this, my mom does. We know when the kids go and they're with grandma has to know, okay, I can't feed the children beef. So it's been just a beautiful thing to, how do we learn from one another? But in our district, in Congressional District 10, about 10% of our district is Asian. And when I say Asian, Indian, Chinese, Korean, Filipino,
Yeah.
Japanese. So there is a strong, Asian community in our district, which is great.
No, look, in itself, that helps actually your ability to go to Congress, to reach across the aisle, to work with others. Because if you think about it, the key word was there that we're Americans, and we are Americans. We are the
Mm-hmm.
fabric and tapestry of this nation. My family is, look, Assyrians have been here going back even before. There's some discovery of tablets that we used to use, the clay tablets that have been found here recently in the United States. That means that the Assyrians were traveling to what today is America, going back thousands of years ago. And then for the first Assyrian arrived here was on the Mayflower. We've actually have Assyrians who have arrived here.
Mm-hmm.
The family descendants is here in Illinois, and we get a chance, hopefully, sometime during this election cycle, I'll be able to have you meet with the relatives of that Assyrian who came
Yeah,
here on the
that
Mayflower.
would be
Uh, we've
great.
had We've had Assyrians who fought in World War II. One of the first units that landed in Normandy on D-Day was an Assyrian unit. But at the end, if you don't, you see they're Americans. They're part of
Hmm.
the American history and the tapestry. And for me, our communities are really linked. There's a large segment of the Assyrian community that is in India. And for me, it was a pleasure just this past year being invited to speak. With the General Counsel of India in Chicago
So
at
great.
his table in a reception, and even for them at that time, we were at the reception where the members of the Indian American and American Jewish community were celebrating Hanukkah, which is in the Indian Jewish traditions in this case. So we are
Hmm.
part of the same tapestry, and I think that people sometimes look at us from party definition and say, well, how's that, possibility? Well, it is a possibility. You can see it right now on your screen. You have two
Yeah.
individuals from various different backgrounds, female, male, and they're ethnic, and they are going to be hopefully the next representatives of the ninth and the 10th Congressional District here in Illinois.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. And what I would just say on that is, before, when people vote, and this is one of my big passions, is how do we get participation to be higher? How do we get people to say, I'm going to take 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it may be, to read about the candidates, not to show up and just vote and party, vote and name, but actually spend a little bit of time, because voters are our hiring managers, right? Like you and I are hired by voters, and each voter, no matter who you are, gets one vote, right? And it is up to you to take that vote and make sure you are investing some time. So I sit back and say, what can we do to start really being a role model to particularly a large part of the minority community that isn't participating, that doesn't participate in primaries, that sometimes doesn't participate in the general election, to let them know. I say to them, don't give up your power. Don't give up your ability to hire and fire who you want to represent you, right? So I'm hopeful that in 2020 and in the years to come, that we will see participation in the large and growing minority community, and particularly in 10 and probably in 9. Show up, vote, and be educated, because if you do that, then you will get a chance to have a more diverse candidate represent you, right? So like when you gave the description before, and again, when I ran, I had no idea that I was going to be the first woman to get through the primary and be on the general election ballot. Then when I sat back and said, hold on, and if I win, I'm the first Hispanic American woman that would ever represent Illinois in the United States Congress, like our state, right? We have almost 35% Hispanics
Yeah,
in this state. How could that be?
isn't that sad?
Um,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
That's crazy. So, but the key is we have to participate, and that's my biggest message I would tell everyone: is take the time, give an hour, research, read about the people you're hiring, and be educated and participate.
Look, it's very important. I'll give you an example. I was standing in line when we had to file in for this year's election, and there was it's very cold. It gets cold when you're standing there all night
Yeah,
waiting in
yeah.
line to be the first to file your paperwork. And
You waited all
we're talking
night,
about
like you were in line for that. Wow,
yes, yes,
you are
and I
a
did it
trooper.
last time it was snoring very badly. But there was a Hispanic woman there, older Hispanic woman with her sister, and you become friends. You strike a friendship. Her son
Yeah.
was going to file. Her son was running as a Democrat, okay, and in Illinois, and I remember. You're standing in line. You went through the process. At that time, the Senator Dick Durbin came in, and he was walking through greeting folks. And she asked me, she goes, "You think it's okay for me to go take a picture?" I go, "Of course it is. He's part of your party. Go take a picture with him
Yeah.
and with your son." And I remember when she went there and talked to him, and she said, "One day my son might want to run for presidency." Dick Durbin just laughed and didn't really reply back to her. To me, it bothered me, and I'm running as a Republican. So
Mm-hmm.
when she came back, I remember she had a case with her, and the case had these beautiful designs, these Mexican carvings on it, almost
Mm-hmm.
by hand in leather. And I said, "What's that? What's that briefcase you have?" And she said, "Well, when our family members came here." This was the bag that they brought all their paperwork to be citizens of the United States.
Mm.
I said, do me a favor, give me your camera. And I said, okay, young man, explain this to me. And I videotaped the young man right there in line with his
Wow.
mom. And his mom told a story. He told a story. I said, okay, I think mom deserves a kiss. He gives her a kiss. I
Yes, that's
videotaped
great.
it for her, gave it to him, and said,
That's
you know what?
awesome.
These are the stories you got to capture. To me, it wasn't an
Totally.
issue of whether or not he was a Democrat and I'm a Republican. I just was able to focus on that. Why? Because my brain was focused on it as a person who's running for Congress, trying to again allow more voices in Congress. When you're
Yeah.
incumbent, you'll show up there. Somebody will say to you from your own party, in this case of this woman, that well, my son will be the president, and he just laughs it off because he's not able to connect with the folks. And I've told everybody in my district that listen, the incumbency has killed us. It's got to support me. You can't go from here to here. You cannot move half a finger, if that, to vote, the incumbent side. I think it's good to have new, fresh perspectives on things. That's why we call this show New Paradigms and look at it from a
Yeah.
different perspective. We're all Americans at the end. It doesn't matter what your background is. I will never allow anything to happen to you, Val, and I know that you will never allow anything to happen
Same.
to me. We have to protect our nation, our country,
Agreed.
because without us working together, we'll never get anywhere.
I love that story though, because I was just giving, and I know you want to go on to something else, but I just have to say, I was giving a mentor, a first generation low income student at the University of Chicago. And I was talking with her yesterday, and I always tell people, dream big. So I love the story you just said about my son wants to be president. Of course, I say to people, dreams are free, reach. Don't self-select yourself out. Don't say I can't do it. I want you to use your imagination to develop this, image of how your life is going to be in the future, and you will get there. Like when I was a kid, I would dream so big. I could sit in my room all day and just come up with my own dreams. It's free. I didn't need any money to dream, right? To imagine. And then if you dream that and you work really hard in this country, it doesn't matter, again, color of my skin, gender, race, my family, they judge me. What could I do? And so that's what I love, and that's the role model I hope to be, right? To tell others, you too can do it. Look at the starting line for me was way back here, but guess what? I worked really hard, and I beat everybody, and I got here. And guess what? You can too.
Look, it's important, I mean, can you imagine what that video did for that young man? I could see it on their face, what they did to
Think
his
about that.
spirit
He gets to go home
and
and
his
imagine in
family.
his brain, like, I can be president. He should imagine that. And we should encourage that for everybody to dream big.
And when I was doing the video, it wasn't that I'm a Republican, you're a Democrat. We're Americans, and I wanted to make sure his story was told from his perspective.
Or humans. Yep.
Val, I want to make sure we get a video of you being interviewed on Fox. I do know that, we're limited on time. I do want to look at some of the policy pieces real quick, but I'm going to show the video first of you being interviewed on Fox, and it kind of gives the entire perspective of who you are.
Let's see it.
All right, a surge of women running on the Republican ticket expecting to flood the ballot box in 2020.
The goal? To tip the balance and turn the House red. One of those women is Valerie Ramirez Mukherjee, who's running for Congress in Illinois. She joined us now. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. Let's take a look here at the number of women in Congress, and there's really no balance to this. 127 Democrats and 21 Republicans. I mean, that number's got to shift.
So my opinion on that is a lot of women on the Republican side have been in hiding. Over the last 25 years, when I first got involved in politics as an undergrad at UC Berkeley in college Republicans, we went into hiding in many ways as our country fought over social issues. And that has divided us as a country and divided us as a party. And over the last 25 years, I feel we have started to resolve those social discussions, and now we're shifting to the fiscal side. And as a woman, as a mom, as a businesswoman, as someone who runs my household, the fiscal is what I care so deeply about. And I feel other women like me, Republican women like me, finally are going to have a chance to come out and say, I'm a Republican too.
That's interesting. Okay, tell us a little bit about Illinois 10. That's your district. It's just on the north side, I guess, of Chicago. Is this a close race, or is this an impossible dream for you?
So first District 10, amazing, beautiful. I've been bouncing coast to coast between California and New York, and then Washington, Connecticut. So I've been going, east and west, east and west. And when my husband and I and our family came here a couple years ago, I said, why didn't someone tell me about this great place before? And so the district, in terms of the competition, it has been predominantly Republican pre-2010, when the census was redrawn to kind of take out some of our core Republican towns. Since 2010, it has been going back and forth, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. And I hope now, with the diversity that that the district offers, with my background as a businesswoman coming from humble beginnings out in the West Coast, a single parent, changing my lifestyle, investing in education, that my story can resonate with our district, and that my experience and background can be a better kind of voice at the table to help the district, because it's a beautiful place, beautiful place.
Let's take a look at the statement from the RNC, and this says, quote, the Republican Party consistently has a deep bench of rock star women candidates running for office across the country, and encouraging more women to get involved in politics remains a top priority. And before we go, I'll ask you, what is the difference that a woman can make, as our representatives today in 2019?
So what I'd say, it just comes down to perspective or experience. And I've always, my whole life, have been careful to ever play identity politics, because I really, up until I would say I was in my low 30s, I didn't see a difference in who I was based on a woman or someone else being a man or being a Mexican American. I judged myself always on performance. But when we say, why do we want more women at the table, is because it gives a perspective. And the topics that we're talking about today, around reproductive health, around family, around education, around safety, climate, those are things that I feel someone that has a different background, a different professional background, a different, comes from someone somewhere else, it gives a perspective that others don't have at the table currently.
Yeah.
All right. Valerie, running for Congress in Illinois, we thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
So hard. I hate watching that. Okay. I remember saying perspective so many times. It's like 3:15 in the morning when I was doing that. Okay. I cut my hair that morning.
I love watching
I
it.
was like,
I love watching.
oh, so tough. So bad.
No, it's okay. Listen, Mal, I love watching. And look, I mean, in a short period of time, you kind of put everything together. I know when we started, we had talked about jets. I know you had talked about education portion you had, which is important to you. I know you've talked on the job piece. I do know that the voters want a little bit much more of a detailed piece in the future. Hopefully, we could bring you back on the jobs perspective, because we're just limited on time. But I think you've done a wonderful job. I do want to give you some time to kind of talk about those if you want. And then I know you get the answers for the security piece of it. But and then I know the absentee ballot voting is important for you. So if you have to go over, we'll go over, because I'm definitely enjoying the conversation. I know that the viewers want to hear more from you.
I have a few minutes before my kids will start screaming because they want dinner. I try to feed them before, and they were like, no, we're busy, right? So their schedules rule everything, right? So I think I'm the boss of my house, but those little kids are my boss. But in terms of, my priorities for this district, like I said, when I visited here, I couldn't understand why real estate, first I came out, I was like, this is really affordable for the value I can get, for the infrastructure that's here, for the sidewalks that are here. The universities, having 2 top 10 universities in our state, Northwestern's in your district, right? Being, driving distance. That's where I play tennis. That's where I work out. This is an incredible place. And I go, but why is it stagnating? Why is it people feel so helpless? Like when I got here, I was like in La La Land. Like I do this when I speak of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I came here and fell in love, like literally moved the kids. So my husband, he was like, we're not moving. I go, I'm moving. Kids and I are going. So you can join us if you want. If not, you stay back here. We're going. This is a beautiful place that I want to raise our family. Moved my mom. She was 72, 73 at the time. Took her dog, said, Mom, come here. She had, she had joined us, California, Washington. She would never join us out east. She wouldn't come to New York, didn't come to Connecticut. But she came here, and now she's like, I'm not leaving. I love it here. And I'm like, how does this 75-year-old woman, now she's 75, that has, there's cold here, She goes, I love it. It's just, you can drive around. The traffic isn't insane. I take the train with her, and we go down to the Ogilvy, and we get Popeye's chicken in the train station, and then we get all kinds of food, and we come home, and it's safe. Beautiful hospitals, beaches, dog parks. Like, I could go on and how special this place is. But what we need to do is bring more people. I need more people to come here. And so when I think about the places I've lived across this country, and I've lived in some really beautiful places, right? Um, what are the two things that really attract people? Well, three things. Jobs, right? Got to have jobs. So California, why can California get away with so many things they're doing? Because there's this feeling of hope of like, I can go there and I would become famous in Hollywood or become a tech billionaire in Silicon Valley. So I will sacrifice everything because of there's hope, right? Education. So when we moved to Bellevue or Medina, Washington, so when we lived in Medina, Jeff Bezos lived 5 houses away from us. He was on the water side at a big house. We had a tiny little house this big, but he was our neighbor 5 houses away. Bill Gates lived down the street. Why did people live there? Why did people move to that area? Because of education. Bellevue, Washington was reimagining education, driven by big investments from Microsoft and others to say, how do we take what our public education system is, but reimagine it and do it differently, right? And then third is taxes. So we had left California to go to Washington, no state income tax. We were done with California, kept jacking up taxes on us. And I said, what are we going to do? We'll leave. We can take our jobs with us. This is portable. We get up, move, and go there. So when I came here, we left Washington, came here, and I said, if we could just bring jobs here, some new economy jobs, attract some of the multinationals, which is really my background, big companies that want talent. I've worked in several of the largest between the coasts. We also have the time zone. Like, you don't realize how special the central time zone is. Okay, I did East Coast, West Coast hours, really difficult. So my focus is, how do we bring jobs here? How do we reimagine education? You solve those two things, that then addresses the tax issue that we're all talking about all the time. You get more people to pay into this versus taxing those who are currently here. We can turn this around super quickly. So that's what I'm passionate about. And the last thing we've added is S for safety. When I was growing up, so if you read my bio on my website, one of my big fears when I was a kid was being stolen. Like, I talk about this. My house was broken into when I lived in a working class neighborhood. My mom was gone. My brother and I had to care for ourselves. Safety was a big issue for me. So I still struggle with it today. Wherever I go, I have been those traumas as a kid. I'm scared often. And I say, that is something we need to solve in this country, is how do we make sure we solve some of the safety discussions? And what's happening now, it gives us a chance for disruption to again, I use this word reimagine a lot. How do we reimagine what is happening from the public services so we can do a better job? Private sector reimagines all the time. They do a fantastic job and they disrupt. We need to do the same in the public sector. And this is where I think the next several years, there's going to be a real chance, if you get the right leaders, the right talent, the right people, to reimagine and do a better job.
Look, you have to, but the people that are currently in Congress, you cannot upgrade that software. I say they are who they are. So you got to get new blood. You get an individual with your background who's absolutely tremendous background in business that understands how to use system approaches to be able to help us out. If you want to look at it from just a strictly this year's election, under the previous administration, under the Obama administration, which the current Joe Biden is running for presidency, they pivoted away from India to Pakistan. A lot of our support went to Pakistan and put India in a tough position. At least the current POTUS has changed that, and he's focused on India, and he pivoted toward India because, as you say, I look at it from an international perspective. We have to be able to fight against China that's controlling our manufacturing bases. So I think if you really want to have individuals that understand and are tied, in this case, to you being married to an immigrant from the Indian community, and I think, as I've said, I've been involved with them. They've opened their doors to me. And we had a couple of pictures. If we get a chance, we'll put them up. Me and you both were at the celebration for the Indian Independence Day. But internationally, what we need to do is bring critical U.S. manufacturing bases back to the States, which are critical for American manufacturing. It cannot be controlled by our adversaries, like in this case, China. And China has lobbied in the U.S. To control or even destroy not our just modern but future manufacturing. As an example, I'll tell you that during this crisis over the past few months, they moved into Argentina, Bolivia, and Peru, and have their hands on the iridium mining. And that being the case, if we start pushing policies like the Green New Deal in Congress, and we start pushing for more battery operated vehicles, guess what's going to happen? They control 63% of manufacturing. That means trying to control all your vehicles. And if you use their lobby capabilities to push environmentals to stop our own development within our own country, in this case, us to be able to develop in Texas, to be able to counter China's requirements, we're going to have problems. And naturally, I think Congress, like you said, needs to have clear legislation policies that are driven by what we always call reasonable standards of what is acceptable by today's American jurisprudence. And if we apply those concepts even to police training and other issues, I think we are going to be well on our way. Supporting education, as you said, is the answer and the key to the woes that confront us all, and is the ticket out of poverty. But we will need to, have a comfortable position, location for people to be educated, and they should and change that environment. And in my district, in my case, specifically, the environment for me is to be able to give school choice opportunities in the ninth congressional district, which is being requested.
I'm with you on that.
Val,
that's what I tell the story. I'll just say that on that issue is I grew up with crappy schools. Okay. And, so you said I didn't go straight to college. I wasn't even thinking about college. And our schools were dangerous. Like I literally would stay home from school because it was dangerous for me to walk from my home to the school. And when I was at the school, it was dangerous while I was there. So why would I want to go to school? So I missed a lot. Okay. And now I sit back and I fast forward to where we are today. And yet there are still so many schools that are dangerous for kids. And yet we have increased our spending in public education to these crazy amount of money, but the money's not going down to the kids. It's not going to those families. It's not going to that area. People are taking a cut off the top. And still, we're in 2020, and there's too many dangerous schools. There are many in my district, probably in yours too. That's not right. We need to change that, right? And that's something that I say, I wish my mom had the option for a school choice to say, I don't have money, but you give me a little bit of this money that I'm paying into my taxes, and maybe I can go put my daughter. I was in Catholic school for a period of time in first and second grade, but she couldn't afford it anymore. Maybe I can take some of that money and go put her back into something, or search for additional money to give my daughter and my son a better place to go. She didn't have that choice, and we don't have that choice today. I want to bring that choice. That's something I'm super passionate about.
No, but that's it. Look, I think school choice is important, and I'm going to push for vouchers as soon as I get into Congress to make sure that parents have the right to choose the school they want to go to. It's your life, it's your education, and we could always streamline the system. Val, it was a pleasure to have you here. We're short on time. I hope you come back again in the future. This was perfect timing because my kids just texted me, literally said, "Where's dinner?"
I'm not kidding you. It was like a perfect cue there. So thank you. This was
it doesn't
fun.
matter that you're running for Congress.
Definitely doing it. They could care less. They're like, whatever. She's mom. Mom needs to come feed us, and I love them. So they are my number one. So thank you. Let's do this again. It was fun. Great show. Keep doing what you're doing too, and let's do it again soon.
Well, continue doing what you're doing. God bless, and everybody get out and vote for Val. Get out and vote. Oh, before we go, Val, where do they have to go to maybe volunteer, donate, or vote? Or where do they have to go to your website? If you could mention your website. Simple,
Val for Congress. So where is it? I know that's that my name's long, Valerie Ramirez Mukherjee, but our website is just Val. So V as in Victor, A Apple, L Larry, valforcongress.com. And you'll find that page there that Sargis has up on this great TV show you have going, Sargis. It's cool.
Val, one last question I ask everybody who comes here. Has the GOP donated any money as of yet, or are they planning on donating any money to support the campaign?
So for GOP, what I'd say is there's one person who is a hero, a rock star we should all celebrate, and that's Mark Shaw. You don't have him in your Congressional District 9. He is the head of the Lake County Republican organization. He's also co-chair of our state. And what I would say is he is, if and I say this to people, I've said this to New York Times, I've said this to TV and others, if we could get people like Mark Shaw up and down Illinois and across other blue states in this country, we could win. because he gives not only, and it's not money, because that's not what we've asked for. We're asking people for time. Time and influence is what we're asking people. A lot of us are all, asked for dollars and dollars and dollars. Hard to get, dollars are hard to come by. But what I say is we all have time. We all have something we can do to influence. When I say influence, social media, ask your friends to get involved. And Mark Shaw is a leader, is fantastic. The amount of time he gives to candidates in Lake County, sorry you don't have him in Cook, but in Lake is phenomenal. My district, I got 75% Lake, so he is a rock star, and I wish we had more people like him.
Well, I have Charlene Foss, so she would
Good.
be
So
his mirror, and I have a wonderful group of ladies helping me out. Susan Sweeney and Kathy Penner, absolutely incredible group and team. And folks, this is it. We've already gone longer than we should. You could tell the kids, blame it on me for taking more time off of mom. But for us also, if you want to help, go to Vote Sangari. We need all the support possible. Election campaign has kicked off as of the 4th of July, and hope to see you guys in November. God bless, and this is New Paradigms. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, bye.